very much to champion alternatives to austerity. I have to tell you, Jeremy, you may not know this, but you were recently described as the finest socialist in Parliament by John McDonnell. I know that because I was chairing a meeting and he was sat there when he said it, so I can vouch for that. Jeremy also campaigned alongside Tony Benn for over 30 years. He's the chair of the human rights organisation Liberation, which Tony Benn founded in '55. He's chair of the Stop the War Coalition, of which Tony Benn was president, and has voted against wars repeatedly. He's vice chair of CND, of which Tony Benn was obviously a prominent member, and he's, as Tony Benn was, he's a patron of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and a long-time campaigner for peace and the rights of Palestinians. There's very little more. You could actually say a lot more, but I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to hand over to Jeremy and ask Jeremy to say more. Jeremy.
Thanks, John, and thank you very much for inviting us here this afternoon. I'm sorry we were slightly late. We were misdirected by somebody. I'm sure it was benignly meant. We went to the Brighthelm Centre because I hadn't properly read the emails I'd received. And we were directed towards the front, and we came across a unison demonstration which appeared to be something to do with libraries. Would that be right? There was a whole lot of people down there talking about learning, which I thought was a good idea, actually. But anyway, we realised it wasn't the LRC meeting, so we redirected ourselves here, and I'm sorry we were a few moments late because of that. I'm going to say three things, really. One is about Bob, secondly about Tony Benn, and then some thoughts on austerity. You obviously heard a lot from Steve about Bob Crow, and I agree absolutely and endorse everything that was said about Bob Crow. I got to know Bob very well over the years that he was General Secretary, because I was and am a member of the RMT group, and attended lots of things with the union because of the union. And Bob was grossly and abominably misunderstood and misrepresented by a lot of the media because he had an authentic working class London accent and supported Millwall. They decided that all the characterisations of the London working class in Millwall were embodied in Bob Crow. They're wrong for the London working class. They're wrong for Bob Crow. And Bob was actually a very well-read man, incredibly well-informed, had an amazing memory for detail and to keep things in his head and keep them going, and had an amazingly broad understanding of issues facing not just the union, but the industry as a whole, the economy as a whole, and the world as a whole. And I went to California with Bob Crow to meet the Longshoremen's Union with the venerated and quite rightly so Jack Hayman, who was his General Secretary. And we were there to address some peace meetings. And they decided they'd keep us busy while we were there. So we kind of arrived on Thursday evening or something, and we met off the plane, and an hour later we were at the first of our union chapter meetings, and we had, I think, 8 that evening and 10 the next day or something. They dragged us around from union meeting to union meeting, and they had an amazing style of organising a union meeting, which Bob and I found a bit odd. It'd be a room like this, and suppose you're all members of the Longshoremen's Union. You'd each have a chair, you've got one of those. You'd each have a table in front of you, like you were there to take an exam, and you would be about 2/3 to a metre between each chair and the next person. So the possibilities of informal discussions between members was somewhere around zero. It'd be roughly where you are. What do you think? Shut up over there. So Bob and I found this kind of atmosphere slightly hard to deal with. And he was very much welcomed by them because they decided he was the new personification of the great Harry Bridges, great American Union leader. And he went down a storm with them. And then we had this anti-war rally the next day. And they, not reported anywhere in any British media, when the Iraq War broke out, they went on strike in the docks in San Francisco. Did you know that? It wasn't reported anywhere at all. And that was the strength of it, and Bob's appeal was huge there. And the other side of Bob was, which is, you said, I do meetings and lectures for the Workers' Education Association, and I do shop stewards courses for them. And it's very interesting. Over the years, I've been doing quite a lot of these, nearly always for London Transport and shop stewards. Over the years, you can tell straight away which RMT shop steward has been through courses at the RMT Education Centre. Bob believed in educating to empower people, hence your remarks about the computers for everybody and the courses and the ability to represent people. Fantastic. And so, obviously, the loss of Bob is a terrible tragedy, and the turnout at his funeral was extraordinary because of the range of people that were there. It was quite extraordinary that there was every organisation and group you can think of were there outside the cemetery, and indeed we were waiting with expectation for his cortege to arrive, and somebody sent that sort of word down the line, it's coming. So we saw this big car and a lot of other cars with us, probably Bob, you know. So we all started clapping and cheering until the car went by and it said goodbye now. It was sadly the wrong funeral, but the family concerned sort of took it in good heart and gave us a wave, and then Bob eventually arrived in splendid style on a horse-drawn carriage with the Millwall colours on top. I won't say any more about the Millwall colours, but what a guy. And you can't replace people like Bob because they're a one-off, they're unique. What you can do is learn that he didn't grow the union by merger. He didn't grow the union by sweetheart deals. He grew the union by education, by a determined defence of his members' interests, and being prepared to broaden the union by bringing in workers in contract cleaning companies and everywhere else. I think there's a lesson there that in this sort of modern free market Britain, the way for unions to go is not to hark back to what it was like when British Rail ran the show. You've got to get out there and be prepared to represent and negotiate and bring people in to expand the unions of the future, and above all, educate people that they can achieve things together, they can't achieve things on their own. So thanks for what you said, and I think we just remember Bob for what a great man he was. And it's kind of